Hi everybody! We're going to talk about Austin curbside recycling today. So that is the blue carts that are picked up by City of Austin employees. I know sometimes that I talk about more general Austin or even Central Texas or at large, but today we're going to be really specific to Austin blue curbside recycling carts. So let's get started. The blue curbside recycling carts, those are picked up by City of Austin staff from the Austin Resource Recovery, ARR department. And they are taken to two different contractors. The residential homes, which is also what we call the people who receive blue curbside carts from the city, north of Lady Bird Lake. That material is all collected and processed by Balcones Recycling. And then the items south of Lady Bird Lake, those are processed by the contractor TDS. So very similar recycling processes and programs, but two vendors, city so big. So there's that. Some of the questions that I commonly get are the materials processed here, and here varies in definition, or are they sent overseas? The City of Austin has very good relationships with our contractors, and we very explicitly wanted that material to stay as local as possible. So none of our stuff is being sent overseas. Now, the information that Balcones has provided to us, they are telling us that most of the materials are shipped to Texas and neighboring states or Mexico, and some markets throughout North America. And just to go into that a little bit more, what happens is City of Austin staff in blue trucks, for the most part, unless a truck is out of commission, we are color coded, so the blue trucks mean recycling for the most part, unless a truck had to fill in for some reason. That gets picked up. The city staff drive it over to Balcones Recycling. It gets sorted in the single stream sorting. It gets baled on site in the different material categories, and then it gets shipped out again to Texas, Mexico, some local states, basically North America. So there's that part. That's a big question that people ask, so I hope that reassures you. TDS should be a similar process since it is the same contract that the city issued to award to the two contractors. We're calling Balcones and TDS our contractors. They're working for the city on this behalf. Another thing that I like to share with you all, the recycling contract with the city, that's a revenue-based contract. It makes money for us. And so the better we recycle, the more correct we recycle, the more material we can get recycled. Don't buy more stuff just to make revenue. But if we can divert things that should be recycled out of the trash can, from what you're already buying, that's great. It makes money for us. So just to put that out there. Okay, some of our FAQs that Balcones has explicitly shared and pointed out to us. Do not bag your recycling. I don't have the clear blue bags that sometimes people use for recycling. What happens at your office or where you used to live is different. So don't bag these. These get pulled off by humans. They're thrown in the trash. There's not enough time to rip it open and dangle it on the conveyor belt as it moves along the process. There's a couple people at the front end of sorting, and they're basically pulling off stuff that is dangerous or completely inappropriate. So like propane, diapers, hoses. Hoses are a thing we call tanglers. That's what they're pulling off. They're seriously, this is going straight in the trash can. So everything in the blue cart needs to be loose. Now what you do in your house is your own thing. If you want to put it in a bag and then when you take it out to your blue cart, shake it in loose, then that's good. I know that can make things a little bit messier, but that's how single stream recycling works, at least in Austin. Okay, so next thing, lids can be kept on the bottles. Recycling evolves. So I just want to point out that we have been told previously not to have lids on. Things have gone back and forth over the years. I get that. I know that it can be frustrating and confusing, which is why we are doing the best that we can to communicate. Technology upgrades and improvements to you all. So for right now, if the lid is the same material, plastic, the lid can stay on. Rinse, shake out, lid in the recycling. If the lid is different, metal versus glass, you're gonna wanna take it off, separate it, drop this in recycling. You don't have to take the label off. We're gonna talk about lids in a second. But make sure if it's different materials that they're separated. Okay, pizza boxes. I don't have a pizza box for you. If the top is clear, like there's no pizza grease food, you can rip that part off and put it in the recycling. Any of the greasy part, anything that's got food residue on it, that needs to go in composting. Some people really like to put the clean parts in recycling and the food parts in composting because technically we're getting another higher use up the recycling stream, whereas compost is just kind of downcycling. It's going straight into the dirt. Recycling with paper, you get a couple more uses as a paper product before it theoretically would also be composted because the paper fibers become so short that they're not really feasible to reuse as a paper product. Sorry, that might have been a little bit too much information. Okay, here we are on lids. So this lid that I took off, if it is smaller than your palm, this is a tube from a dog waste bag roll, smaller than your palm, it's not gonna get captured by recycling. It's gonna fall through the single stream sorting program, and typically right now that is trashed. Now what you can do, and you can try to do a little bit better, which is what I do, is you can separate those items into plastic and metal, and I take them to the respective stations at the Recycle and Reuse Drop-Off Center. Hard plastics for the little plastic bits and scrap metal for the little metal bits. That gets baled a little bit more differently. That's a little smaller scale of an option. There's a higher likelihood that that material will be captured and recycled properly. So just putting that out there. That might be devastating, that might be upsetting to you. That's the current state of things. So I want to share that in the interest of full disclosure with you. Okay, do not crush, no crush, your cans or bottles. So the way that the lasers and blowers and everything on the recycling process are working right now, they are reading the shape of this. Sometimes they're even reading the barcode to determine where to send something. So please don't crush. Historically, I know we liked to crush things, made it easier to process them, to weigh them, to move them around, all that jazz. We don't do that anymore. Kind of in similar vein, try and handle your glass delicately. Try not to break it. It can get break and crushed in the process, but let's try and minimize the amount of broken glass as far along the process as we can. That's mostly a safety measure for the drivers, just so they're not like scraped or hurt when they're processing any of that stuff. It's okay if you like put it in there and it cracks, you know, that totally happens. Just do your best on that. Okay, next one. Remove shrink sleeves from containers. This is sort of newish, certain shrink sleeves and then old ones. So this is kind of a new thing that's happening. So this is Activia yogurt. You'll see on this how-to label right here, right there. I'm sorry that that doesn't zoom in better. That you can recycle the bottle, but you need to take off the label. So this pulls off. This is gonna go in the trash. It's not recyclable, like at all, even in plastic bags. And then this can be recycled again with the lid on because it's a plastic lid on a plastic bottle. Another shrink sleeve, you also hear this called overwrap. So just kind of, we're looking at the sleeves on things. So, sorry, this here, please do not throw this like this in your recycling cart. No one is taking this apart at the recycling center. This will get pulled off and go in the trash as is. So what you're gonna wanna do, you can take this overwrap off and you can recycle it with your plastic bags and film. It's soft, your finger goes through it. It can be recycled. You're gonna take that off and then you can put your paper in the recycling cart. Ideally, you know, as a reminder, we want all of the cardboard broken down flat. It makes more room in the truck. Stuff is less likely to fly out when the crushing arm comes down, that kind of stuff. So there's that. Okay, and then our last thing here. I colored this blue so you guys could see the difference, but empty your containers. This seems to be most of an issue with obviously bottled drinks, especially in my opinion, sports drinks, this needs to be emptied. So the first reason that Balcones is giving us is that they are too heavy to be sorted properly. So where this bottle empty would normally probably be blown into other plastic recycling, right now the sorter might get confused. It might not know where this goes. It might end up in the trash like this. Additionally, what can happen is if this goes in the truck, when the crushing arm comes down, it could crush this, explode this, and then first of all, you're filling the truck up faster, you're making a mess, and then the truck gets dirty. If this happens on the single stream sorting machine, then the machines have to get turned off. They have to get cleaned, and they have to be fixed so they can continue their work. That takes several hours to clean a machine when there's a tangler or it gets too contaminated with liquids. So there's that. This is not an FAQ on this explicit list that I have that I'm sharing with you guys, but also things that we want to make sure that we do not put in the recycling carts. In Austin, again, to be clear, no bags. No bags. Doesn't matter if it's loose bags, a bag of recycling, a bag of bags, no bags. These are too soft. They are going to get stuck in our recycling sorting stream, sorry to be clear. Okay. Guys, please don't put hoses in the recycling carts. So a couple things on this. First of all, it's called a tangler. It's too soft and wiggly. It's going to get caught up in the rollers of the sorting machine. So that's the first thing, tangling. Again, when we have to shut that down, somebody has to crawl up there and untangle that. That can take hours. The second thing that we want to realize, this is what's called a composite material. This is a mixed material item. We cannot easily recycle in general, and then specifically in single stream sorting, mixed materials. So we've got metal here. I don't even know, vinyl, nylon, I don't know. There's a tube in here. This is this type of hose. There's this squishy thing inside. I don't know what that is. Rubber, plastic. So this is like at least 3 different types of material. By the way, I don't know anyone that recycles hoses. So just try and find a really good one that'll last you a long time. So that's that. Those are those FAQs. Let me know what other kinds of common questions you have. Plastic bags are recycled in a whole separate system. Textiles also recycled in a whole separate system. And then household hazardous waste, completely other system. Please don't put batteries in your trash or your recycling cart. They're separate recycling streams. And we'll talk about that another time. All right, thanks guys.